Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to another episode of Bill Has Opinions, the future problem with the Today Show. I am Laura Lavoie, and I'm here with Bill Perkins, who has opinions. That's this guy.
Nanu.
That's a lot of things. I can't do that. I actually physically
You have
can't.
to be like.
I do. I like my pinky finger. They do not. I can't do that independently. I've had people be like, "Are you sure you can't do it?" I'm like, "No, I'm fucking sure I can't do it." I'm 47 years old. You think I would have tried by now?
Yeah.
Anyway, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Yeah, I was about to tell you before the show started, but then I decided to wait till the show did start to tell you because it's crazy. My son had appendicitis this week.
Jesus Christ, what more could that boy deal with?
I made this joke because I don't know if people remember, but last year about this time, it was a little later than this. It was the beginning of summer. He had encephalitis and he was in the hospital for a week.
Poor kid.
So now he's in the hospital with appendicitis. Acute appendicitis apparently.
Well, at least it's adorable.
Yeah.
But how much can one kid go through?
I don't know. And I said, hey, how about let's not make a habit out of this shit? Like every summer, we go to the hospital for a week,
Damn.
Anyway,
I hope.
But related to today's show, they went in with a robot arm and pulled one of his organs out.
Oh yeah, I guess. Well, an organ is a strong word for it.
An obsolete organ, if you will. I actually read. So it's been so long since I've looked this up. Like, what does the appendix do? Apparently, they have a new theory now.
Oh.
They've had this theory since 2007, to be fair. Yeah. I just haven't cared in many years what the appendix did. I was operating under the assumption, like most of us probably were, that it was an archaic, like gizzard type thing that we no longer use.
Sure.
Scientists since 2007 now think it is actually a depository of good gut bacteria. Basically, it's like it's your backup. Like it holds like a pocket of gut flora.
Oh, okay.
So that like if something bad happens to you, like that then it releases it and But
if it gets infected, it's got all this bacteria that would normally be good, but now it's infected and it goes berserk.
I guess so. I don't know. Man, it seems crazy. But anyway,
Right.
So that happened. And that's probably about the most exciting thing that's happened to me this week. Well, had my 10th anniversary last week.
We joined you at the Purple Onion for some music and fun.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Anyway,
always good stuff.
I guess it's been kind of an eventful week as far as those kinds of things go.
Yeah.
And I told you also we had a very unsuccessful email migration at work from my company got bought out a year or so ago, and now they're kind of like migrating everything into one thing, and it's not going well.
Yeah, that happens.
Today was kind of a weird day because I got like 6 emails to my normal like 200. So I was like, well, that's weird.
Yeah, that's a lot of emails though.
I get a lot. I will say, like, thankfully my boss last week we had a meeting, and she was like, about a third of that shit you don't need to bother with. Like those people are like emailing you in error and they should stop.
That's fair. At least you got some direction on it. That's
No, it was actually very helpful for me. And then I've spent the last like 3 days of last week, like every time somebody emailed me about something, go, hey, this isn't really my thing. You shouldn't bother me with this. You should go to these people. And they're like, what? So anyway, it's probably gonna take me 3 weeks to actually like get people on the program and like go talk to the right people about this, but. Because in some regards, I guess I've been operating under it's just easier for me to take care of it and get it off my desk and they fuck off and I don't have to talk to them about it anymore. But, but in the long run, it's easier for me not to have to deal with it at all. Mm-hmm. So I get it.
That's fair. That's fair. No,
How you been?
Well, we had a fairly uneventful weekend. We went downtown and had some beers. And
you actually got into a place downtown to have beers?
We did.
I guess it was rainy though, wasn't it?
So. Well, yeah, we went on Friday night. We went to Dirty Jack's. which is an institution here in Asheville.
Yeah, and it's a little off the beaten path, I suppose. It's not the first place that like the tourists go to.
We did talk to two very, very drunk tourists.
Okay.
That had come. One had come from Savannah. One had come from Jacksonville, and they were meeting friends from Atlanta. And they got in early, like too early to check into the Airbnb, and the friends were still driving in. And so they went with their luggage bar hopping.
Yeah.
And they were pretty toasted by the time we saw them at Dirty Jags. We had a nice conversation with them, but it was fun. And then, yeah, like Saturday night, we hung out with our neighbors in our backyard.
Oh, hey, I've been meaning to ask you, have you been to that shitty, weird beer place over on where is it? Over in Swananoa River Valley area, there's this crazy beer joint that makes like all these. I don't know. It's got like a fucking like.
I don't think I have been there.
Okay.
I haven't been down that way.
I can't remember. Place. I'll talk to you about it later. You should go check it out once.
Okay.
It's got a great atmosphere, but I don't like any of their beers. Although you might. I don't know. They're doing all these like crazy shit. Like they're I don't know.
I guess it depends. Right now, my tastes are leaning toward beer flavored beers. So
you might not like it.
I guess it just depends.
No, I don't like it.
Right.
Okay, I just saw the thing at the bottom that says beep boop beep beep.
Did you just see that?
I just saw it. Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's funny,
isn't it? I'm hilarious.
Yeah. That's droid for. We're glad you're here.
So, since you brought up beer, let's talk about drinking.
Beers.
What you got?
Oh, I'm finishing up an Oberon. Which I got out of your, which I stole out of your refrigerator.
Yeah, I have one for my next beer. So
it's a good choice.
Demonstrate that
Definitely good choice. Prior to that, I pre-gamed, but I'm going to have another one. The Light Zombie. You know, we had a show a couple of weeks ago about light beers, and I think I was kind of like, these craft beer places need to get on the stick and make more light beers, and so now my prayers were answered. I've actually in the last month discovered several good light beers made by craft breweries, and this is one of them, and it's a really good version. If you're familiar at all with the White Zombie from Catawba, it's pretty much the same shit but less so.
Right, 95 calories, white ale. So here's my issue with this. So hold that up there to the camera.
All right.
Why do we need another shape of can? Why can't we put, let's just compare, a regular can.
Sure.
Why can't we put a light beer in a regular fucking
look how
can?
Skinny it is. It lets you know that you're going to be skinny.
You're going to be super skinny when you drink this. But no, I don't, if I wanted to, because, we talked about this earlier, a lot of them are really targeting, the crushable, drinkable. So if I want to just sit out in my backyard and drink a bunch of this, I don't have the proper koozie.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm going to have to knit one.
I'm trying to, it says up here on the little banner at the top, low cal, low carb. But you notice they gave me the cal count here,
but no carb.
But they didn't give me the carb count at all, which is what's important to me.
Right. And does it give you? I'm sure it gives you. It's required to give you the alcohol.
Oh yeah.
Somewhere
it says it is 4.0%.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Which is still pretty high for a light beer.
Yeah, but of course, a lot. I go 5 and below is my.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's more than a Bud Light or something.
Oh well, yeah, but that's why I don't drink Bud Light.
Sure, that's what I'm saying. It's a pretty, but I don't see where I'm gonna have to go to their website and find out the carb count.
Will. But I would buy those. I would buy those and drink those.
They sell a 15-pack of it, I want to say.
Oh, I love. You sell me a 12 or 15 pack. I am here for it. We buy the all day IPAs in the 15 pack because. It's just good stuff. Speaking of.
On deck, I've got an all-day vacay from Founders.
So that's their wheat session.
Yeah, wheat session.
Have you tried it yet?
No, but it's a wheat beer, so I figured I'd like it.
I've actually not tried it, but their Founders All Day IPA is one of my favorites.
And it's got a woody wagon on it.
It does. I actually really like that. And on a beach.
Yeah.
On All Day IPA, the woody wagon is in the woods. So apparently IPAs are more woodsy than wheat beers, which is more beachy.
Oh, okay.
So that's where I'm going with that.
I see. So but this one's beachy and okay, I got you.
See, I would go get one, but I'm not on the show. But it's the same car driving through a woods. So
okay.
But I have I'm just going with some classics here.
Sure.
I got the I drank like an all day.
Got to get back in time.
Yeah,
with 1985
time. Yes, so 1985 IPA because it's tasty. I think this is actually our last one.
It's also hazy, I would say.
It is hazy. Oh, there's the cooler right there. Hey,
Yeah.
look at the cooler. But then after that, I have the Oberon, which I did not need to get back out of the cooler because I already showed it to you.
Uh-huh.
So, and then just in case, and I don't know if I'll get to it, but I grabbed
A lighthearted. Which is a light also.
It is also a light. It's the light two-hearted, which we showcased on the show.
And I wanted to honorable mention, I need to talk about this because I bought this the other day. I bought 2 of them. I drank one of them over the weekend. The Strawberry Zombie by the same brewery that gave you Light Zombie. I bought this because I was like, oh, hey, another flavor of White Zombie. It lived up to my high expectations of strawberry-flavored beers.
Which is to say, they're not.
They're not very good. It's better. I'd say it's better than a Beta strawberry beer.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, that's a reasonable comparison.
If you like strawberry beers, you might like. I would say it's the best strawberry beer I've ever had. That's not saying a whole lot. I don't like them.
So if you like strawberry beers, it's like, well, you are going to leave that for us. We'll taste it. We'll let you know.
You guys have it and see what you think. It kind of tastes like somebody took a White Zombie and stirred some Strawberry Quick in it, you know?
Which, go ahead and try that at home, folks, because I'm curious what that would end up being like. So, stir in some Strawberry Quick.
Do they still make Strawberry Quick?
I think so.
Okay.
But they at least make some sort of.
They don't make the Banana Quick anymore.
No,
though.
They don't. Do that.
I remember buying that in the early '90s for a minute, and I kept it until it seized up, like it was just a solid rock of strawberry powder.
We didn't. My father liked he didn't like to eat food, so he had like the Carnation instant breakfast.
Oh yeah,
it was totally sidetracked, but he had the so. Every once in a while,
that's all he had for
breakfast every day. And so as a kid, every once in a while, I would mix myself up some, and I'm like, no.
Which flavor did he like?
Chocolate.
Oh, chocolate. Yeah. Okay. But it came in multiple flavors too, as I recall.
It did, but we only ever had chocolate. Actually, to this day, which is probably why I won't like the Strawberry Zombie. Like, this is a complete and absolute total sidetrack. That to this day, I do not like strawberry flavored convenience or like fruit flavored convenience food. So like Pop-Tarts. I eat 2 flavors of Pop-Tarts. Cinnamon and chocolate.
Okay.
I will not.
Cinnamon is the best one, I will say.
Cinnamon brown sugar with
that's the best one they make. It's the best one they make.
I'll eat the shit out of the chocolate one too, but
see, I do like the strawberry one with the white icing too, but
no, thank you.
But the cinnamon one is the preferable one. Like I'd rather have that one.
But yeah, so like that includes anything like that. So if for a while I was doing like the Slim Quick, which by the way didn't work. But
you didn't get quickly.
I did not get quickly slim. But I was trying to channel my dad and his Carnation Instant Breakfast, and I was like, maybe it'll work. It did not. What worked for him is esophageal cancer. That's how he lost weight. So we're waiting for that. But
something to look forward to.
Someday. But that's how he lost weight. But like I tried like the Slim Quick, and I couldn't do like even the vanilla. I'm like, no, I had just chocolate on that one.
I did Slim Fast for a minute once, and the only way I found that they were remotely drinkable was if you put them in the freezer for about half an hour and let them get slushy. They were slightly better tasting. The colder they were.
They're terrible in any case
because they basically tasted like flavored paint.
Yeah.
Is what they,
So you can have the off-white paint or the brown paint or the pink paint. No, that's fair.
But if you got them a little icy, they were somewhat more bearable. Like, because I don't know, it just did something.
All right, we are so far off track.
Never mind that.
We already talked about.
You know what? Speaking of though, what's a good drink?
A good drink?
Soylent.
But my favorite is Soylent Green.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you where it's got people in it?
People. Soylent Green is people.
That's what I've heard.
Oh, shit. And so the funny part is someone's made a meal replacement actually called Soylent now.
I know. And it you know what? I would be surprised, except for years ago, my mother handed me a pain relief pill that was called Soma. And at that point, I was like, marketing people just don't give any fucks.
No fucks. 0 fucks at this point. All right, so let's get into the topic. The topic is science fiction. Why don't you start us out with a little science fiction monologue?
I first became aware of science fiction in my formative years, I would say around the late 70s.
Mm.
We can argue the point of whether or not this is science fiction, but I went to see a little show, if you will, called the Star Wars, and I was hooked. I was like, well, this is some good stuff. And
I suppose at the very least it has pew pew lasers.
It has lasers
and spaceships. Yeah.
So it's kind of.
But we could argue the point.
Yeah, we can
just
argue
won't
the
right
point.
now.
We'll talk. We'll come back around to that. So yeah, at that point, and then I remember a couple of years after that happened, my mother took me to see Wrath of Khan, which is funny because I went to see Wrath of Khan, which is totally like you really need the storyline. You need a background in what's going on,
right?
But I had none.
Yeah,
I went and saw it anyway. I went into it blind, like I hadn't seen motion picture. Not that really led into it.
Yeah. Well, that's the rule, right? Every other Star Trek is Star Trek movie is decent.
I went to see it not knowing anything about the characters. I don't know why Khan's mad. I don't know why what they're doing. I don't know who these people are. I don't know. They're in a fucking spaceship. They're putting things. They're putting little bugs.
Oh my god, the fucking bugs in the ears.
That gave you the heebie-jeebies for years thereafter, right?
Oh, it traumatized me. And I grew up in Michigan, where earwigs.
Well, we got earwigs down here too.
I've never seen them.
You haven't seen them? Oh gosh! All you got to do is roll up a newspaper out in the garden, get it wet.
Oh,
that's how you're supposed to catch them.
But that's what would because I would sit I equated those two things.
Yeah, because I don't think it was coincidental that this SETI eel is supposed to look like an earwig, although it looks more like a helgamite. Have you seen one of those?
No.
Okay, so it's a Dobson fly larva, which people use around here to trout fish with. Anyhow, those things look like absolutely fucking look like a SETI eel. And actually, every time somebody posts a picture of one, I'm on this one entomology forum on Facebook, and anytime somebody posts one and says, "What the fuck is this?" I'm like, a SETI eel. And like 3 people are like, ha ha ha.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get the people, well, actually.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, come on. So anyway, that's a thing. Yeah, but Star Trek too, man. It hit all the things. It hit all the points, and I loved it. And so then I went to see every Star Trek movie after that, having not had a previous. And then I remember, I came home from something. I was out, and I came home, and my mom told me, hey, this was I want to say it was 1980, what the fuck, 1987,
okay,
6 or 7, somewhere around there. I came home anyway, end of the weekend. My mom said, hey, there's a new Star Trek starting. You might want to check that out.
Oh.
And I sat down and I watched Encounter at Farpoint.
Yeah.
Which to be frank is kind of boring. It's the
fair.
Worst episode of. You gotta slog through it.
No, that's
my
fair.
wife hasn't watched Star Trek at all because I can't get her to slog through Encounter at Farpoint.
I will tell you, start with episode 2, man. You can get past it.
The only important thing that happens in Encounter at Farpoint is that that you learn about the relationship between Troy and Riker, right? That's really the only character setups you get at all.
Exactly. No,
and then I guess there might be one scene with there's a scene with Dr. McCoy, and so watch 2 YouTube clips.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you don't have to watch the rest of it. Fuck it, right?
I think that's fair. There are a few shows I would recommend doing that. Like read a synopsis, then start with number 2.
Yeah. Because pilots, first off, they haven't fleshed the characters out.
Right.
So they're always weird anyway. Like, because if you go back and watch them after you've seen the show at all, you're always like, why are they acting so screwy? These people are weird.
Mm.
And it's because they haven't fleshed the characters out yet. Like, if you watch the pilot from the original Star Trek, The Cage, Mr. Spock smiles at something.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's like, ha, that's crazy. And you're like, that's not even that's not a character. That's weird.
And most people don't consider that even the pilot because they completely changed the entire show after that.
They went back and did rewrites or whatever.
Well, they fired that captain and had a new captain and all.
And they were like, we can't have a lady be number 1. That's crazy.
That's not possible.
No.
Which, by the way, we do now because now they're making the Christopher Pike series.
A lady could be
A lady is
a lady could be the captain even.
Well, a lady is the captain right now. But
yeah,
also,
but I'm saying like then there was a lady who was the captain back in the 90s, and that was the only good thing about that particular series. But...
That is absolutely true. I remember that being like super groundbreaking, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why is that groundbreaking? Here's my issue with Star Trek. We're getting way deep. So through the 90s, through all the 90s series, I was like, great. We've had a black man as the captain. We've had a woman as the captain. You know what we fucking need as a fucking captain? A goddamn alien. A non-human species.
Have we not?
We have now with the new Star Treks, but I was like, why the fuck are they all people? Like,
here's another thing. I recently read this article about how if Star Trek takes place in the 24th century, something like that.
Yeah.
And Kirk is as sexual as he is. He's bisexual.
Oh God.
And Riker also.
No, I'd say pansexual.
Like, yeah. Because in that point in time in the future, like no one will give two shits about.
One would hope
the binariness. Of sexuality, which it's not anyway. You know, it's a spectrum, but
exactly.
At that point, we'll be so far advanced that like you'll just fuck whatever you want to fuck, I guess.
Exactly.
With consent.
Yeah, as long as you have consent. All right, real quick, because we've already gotten way off topic. So let's, because this is going to be a show, folks.
We're going to run out of time on this one.
But so we might as well mention a friend in their business, right?
Okay, is it sci-fi related?
Well, I figure this is the closest we got, right? Michael Keane, he does weird reviews of weird movies. Some of them are sci-fi. He's made a weird sci-fi movie, so watch that too. And more movies to come. So check out Michael Keane on YouTube because he's weird and funny, and we love him and kind of miss him because he moved to Vegas. So
yeah, absolutely.
He's a total.
You know, they were in Charleston last week, and I actually texted Casey and was like, "Hey, are you coming through here?" And she was like, "No." And I was like, "Okay, well,"
because they flew.
I know, and I was like, "Okay, well, if you did, we'd love to see you, but if you're not, then I guess we'll see you in September."
Yeah, exactly. We'll see her in September. We've been talking about and threatening to go to Vegas for a long time.
Oh yeah, same. So one day we'll go out there and
one of these days we should just
impose on them.
Yeah, plan a trip to Vegas. Well, I mean, we can stay in the Vegas, and just
Vegas.
Hang out with them for some drinks. I think is the way to go. But
I would impose on them. I wouldn't think
you'd be
twice
like,
about
I'm
it.
staying at your house. I'll
hold your baby. Even. You guys go out and have dinner for a night, and then let us stay here for a week.
No, not me. Their baby is adorable, and I'm very glad they have one. But I do not trust me to take care of your child. I'm just going to tell you that. That's
she don't even like keeping them out of the creek at the breweries.
Yeah, I got. Yeah, no, I do.
Which is a thing people around here expect you to do.
Yeah, no, that shit's not happening. I am not. It might take a village, but the village needs to consent because I do not consent.
Like,
I am not your village.
I didn't volunteer for this.
I 100% am not your village. That's a whole other episode. Anyway, so let's keep talking about sci-fi. So we were going on about Star Trek, which we can continue to go on about. I think the place to, since we started talking about that, you had mentioned in our back and forth notes before the show, kind of there are two. I mean, there's lots of subgenres of sci-fi, right? Yeah. But there's kind of two schools of sci-fi.
You know what? I've realized since then, because I was making a top 10 list for the end of the show, that there's probably 3 big schools. So
you got dystopian. You've got utopian, which is Star Trek.
Yeah, and then you've got what I want to say is like spiritual sci-fi, which is where the sci-fi is trying to get you to understand
like a greater truth.
Yeah, that. Okay. So I want to throw that in there because I realized like 3 of my top 10 things were those kinds of things, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's always the thing I go in for, which is crazy because I'm an atheist, but I really dig spirituality and sci-fi.
That's fair, and I would include a 4th genre of science fiction, which is one of my favorites, which is known as speculative fiction.
Okay,
which is, I guess, some people would call it sci-fi light. Margaret Atwood is one of the biggest speculative fiction authors, and she says even though some of her stories, like Handmaid's Tale, right, like you look at that, like that's like a dystopian future, but she says it's speculative because all of these things have happened. I'm just drawing it out to another conclusion.
Oh, I would go as far as to say it's neither the future nor is it speculative.
Well, it was when it was written. It was the future.
Okay, yeah, I guess it was written in like 1984.
In the 80s, yeah,
something like that. But now it's like totally like, And we'll get. I'll mention the. I'll talk about it now. Okay, because some of my I would say at least two of my favorite sci-fi pieces of work, and I'd say 3 or 4 of my favorite books were dystopian future things, and which I really enjoyed that genre until the point when we started living in
yes, that's fair.
Once we started living in the dystopian future that I was promised, I no longer liked it as an escapism, and I don't care for it as a thing to watch or listen to anymore, because it's like I'm already living this shit. I don't need to see this.
No, I agree. I completely agree with that. Because Handmaid's Tale has recently been turned into a TV show, and it's a lot. It's a lot to watch right now.
Oh God, it's because you feel like you're living it, and it's like I don't want to watch this shit. Like this is at best, if we want to consider this the future, this is at best a decade away.
Yeah.
Like, which is funny because I remember actually when I was a kid in the 80s. They used to always set dystopian futures in the late 90s.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, in 1996, Skynet decided to blow up the Earth. Or in 1993, this particular police officer played by Sylvester Stallone was mistried and judged guilty and frozen to death, or what.
Yeah, exactly.
So all that crazy shit happened in like the late 90s. And it's funny. It's funny to me that like sci-fi's in general, they always like to set them like 20 or 30 years in the future. Yeah,
like there's going to be that much difference till then, except then as we've lived it.
Yeah, I mean some of it. I mean, okay, so if it's something about like how your government will become more fascist, then that's probably fair.
Yeah, like 1984, right? Like that's a classic,
right?
And it was 1984 came and went, and oh shit, now we are.
It took us an extra 10 or 15 years to get there, but
we did. What drives me crazy about 1984 is people on all political spectrums will use it as the example of what not to do, except none of them are appropriately what not to do.
Right. Yeah.
Like you'll get like the super.
I get you. Yeah. Like it works on either scale. Like because I think everybody who read it thought that's about the other side doing their thing.
Exactly.
And then and I don't know. I mean, I might be giving too much credit to Orwell, but I feel like he was probably saying anybody with too much power can do this.
I mean, I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
Because absolute power corrupts absolutely, right?
So a real quick aside, very, very short aside. So the author who wrote A Clockwork Orange, which I guess is one of the movies that stuck with me, which is another conversation, Anthony Burgess, he wrote, after 1984 came out, he wrote a book called 1985.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to get anymore.
I actually have a copy of it somewhere.
Dude, fuck, give that to me. I need to read it. I've been trying to read it since the 90s.
I found a copy in a used bookstore when I was in college, and I want to say I've still got it in a box somewhere. Yeah. I'm not saying I can get my hands on it like easily, but I know I purchased a copy of it. It
starts out with an essay that's a takedown of 1985. And then Burgess writes his own version of what happens in a takedown of 1984. And then he writes his own version. And like I've been reading about this since I was a kid, and I loved Clockwork Orange, both the book and the movie.
At some point when I find, I'm sure it's in a box at my mom's house probably. But when I find it, I will absolutely let you read it.
100%. I've been looking for it since the 90s.
I used to be a collector of out of print books when I was younger. I had all these, and this is fucking like not sci-fi related at all.
Wait, it's what? It's not sci-fi related?
No, it's not at all. I'm going off the rails related? But one of my favorite authors at the time was this minor beat poet author out of California named Richard Brodigan, who I used to love all of his work, and I would, every time I was in a used bookstore, if I found a Richard Brodigan book, I would just buy it. Whether I already owned 7 copies.
Doesn't matter. You're like, I'm going to buy all of them.
The reason I would buy them was because I was always telling people, like, you need to read Richard Brodigan. And they go, where do I find that? And I would be like, right here. Bam. Here you go. Take a copy.
I got a copy for you.
So I would just hand them out to people.
Sure.
Because it was that important to me, like to spread the word of Richard Brautigan to people. So likewise, when I'd see something rare, I'd pick it up. And I remember at some point seeing 1985
extremely
by
rare.
Anthony Burgess and purchasing
I
it.
remember specifically, like one of my best friends in high school was a huge fan of A Clockwork Orange, and I had this grand plan, like for his 16th or 18th birthday or something, to buy him a copy of 1984 and a copy of 1985, and I could not find 1985 anywhere.
Wow. Well, we have the internet now, so I'm sure it's easier to find.
Oh, probably now, but that was the 90s. All right, so, okay, so so I think what I would like to talk about now real quick is early sci-fi, right?
Okay.
So sci-fi...
the history, the origins.
The history, right. So science fiction, it is basically what could we conceive doing that we haven't done yet.
Sure.
So the mother of science fiction, considered the earliest science fiction show or science fiction book in the history of science fiction, although some people try to erase her, is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley.
Yeah.
Right? So she wrote this story that was based on the fact that she kept having miscarriages or like stillborn babies. And literally she wrote a book about how to create life because she felt, the woman was 18 when she wrote it, but she felt like she couldn't create life. So like this was a thing for her. So she wrote this whole story. And so it came out of the a bet between Percy Bysshe Shelley, John Polidori, Lord Byron, and her. Yeah. And they all said, we need to write these. They didn't call it science fiction.
They were going for horror at the time because Polidori actually invented the modern vampire story.
Vampire.
Yeah.
Yeah, he actually, and
in that same bet,
Lord Byron wrote a vampire story that, most people, that's not his most famous work.
Actually, I've heard the vampire in Polidori's story is actually
is Byron.
Byron, yes.
Absolutely. But so all these boisterous men were like, we're going to write a horror story. We're going to write a horror story. And this 18-year-old woman wrote one that in the time that she was alive, like Percy Bysshe Shelley tried to take credit for it and stuff. But she's like, I'm not having any of that. And she published it. But it is a fucking, it is horror. But it's really speculative or science fiction for the time.
Well, and there's an intersection of horror and sci-fi because some of the things that science does is horrific, right?
Sure.
And we'll get to that, I think, toward the end of the show because some of my favorite sci-fis are kind of also horrors in a way, but
it made me think of a movie that I wanted to mention for that if we get there.
If we even get to that.
But then I think after Mary Shelley, right, the two godfathers of science fiction are Jules Verne and H.G. Wells.
Yeah, sure.
Right. So, and I guess you could, if you're tying horror into that, you could also include what's his name?
Lovecraft. Yeah, a little bit. Only because his horrific beings were cosmic in some way. Not that he had really any sci-fi in it, aside from that they were from some other realm of the cosmos or some shit.
And Lovecraft is a whole other episode, honestly, but problematic as fuck. But Jules Verne and H.G. Wells, although to be honest, Jules Verne and H.G. Wells, if you really read them today, are kind of problematic as fuck. But which is one of the things about reading Mary Shelley's work. It's not. It holds up to this day. Yeah. Like, it is creepy and timely and well written.
And it explores existential debates and whatnot,
Absolutely. Right. About stories about what is life, which there are so many sci-fi stories about that.
Doesn't make me want to say one other thing, because you had said that the point of sci-fi was to look ahead. I would say it's also, this is the second point of sci-fi sometimes, is to remove us from the now.
Sure.
And to make us think abstractly about a thing. Certainly in movies and television that are sci-fi, I think this is what happens, is it makes us go, oh my God. Like it'll make you like look at a issue. But abstract it in a way where you don't take it personally to wrap yourself up in your personal politics about it.
For sure.
And then
I think so.
And then you can kind of almost like, and sometimes it changes your mind. Maybe it doesn't always. I don't know. I'm always amazed at the number of really conservative people who like bellyache about Star Trek or something like that. And then I'm like, why in the fuck are you watching Star Trek anyway?
That's actually a really
you missed the point of Star Trek.
That's a really, really good point, because that's like, why are we bringing politics into our sci-fi? Have you read sci-fi?
Oh, I hate Star Trek because it's got so woke, and I'm like, it's always been fucking
literally
woke.
That was the point.
The point of it was the wokeness.
1968, it was woke.
It was like, hey, here's a whole crew of people from all over the fucking world. They're different colors and galaxies.
I mean,
and they're all getting along fine. Mm-hmm. Isn't that kind of woke in a way?
I think that's woke as
fuck. The first fucking interracial kiss happened on Star Trek.
Absolutely.
It was always woke.
The first...
I mean, its degree of wokeness, yes, it's progressed, but so have we as a people.
Right.
Hopefully.
Well, the first same-sex kiss on television also happened on Star Trek. Deep Space Nine. I mean, it was a complicated storyline because there were a lot of factors. It wasn't just literally a woman kissing a woman. There was a lot of
There's a woman kissing a ghost, right?
No, it was
the same woman also kissed a ghost.
Yeah, that's true. But it was
she was just really open-minded.
Jadzia Dax and a former former Dax. That was.
I thought it was Beverly Crusher.
No, she had a different thing, but no, the actual
was in love with a Trill also.
She was, yeah.
And then the Trill switched sex because it was put into a body of a woman, and she was like,
that was Jadzia's story. That's Jadzia Dax. That wasn't Crusher. That's Jadzia's dad. Jadzia Dax met up with someone that her Curzon used to date, who was a woman and was in a woman.
Beverly Crusher dated a Trill who was a man. And then
there was no kiss.
The host there was no kiss because the host died, and she had to put the symbiont into a new body.
Yes.
And the new body was a woman, and then the new body was like, "Hey, I still love you," and she was like,
"No, thanks.
It doesn't work for me."
Yeah, it was.
But apparently she was okay with falling in love with a ghost.
Yeah, that's
she drew the line at like
exactly.
I guess the ghost was a male ghost, so she was still operating on sort of a
but Jadzia Dax and the relationship was Curzon and this other Trill, and they actually had the first same-sex kiss on television.
Yeah, so Star Trek liked to break boundaries. I mean, and it pushed the envelope on a lot of these things, and so anybody who ever complains about a new Star Trek being woke because there's a female captain or whatever the fuck, I'm like, what are you getting at, man? Like, have you even been paying attention?
Have you been watching? Right. And I mean, the same is true for comic books and things too. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Like the whole point of comic books, again, is an analogy.
The X-Men were an analogy for racial equality and then for
homosexuality.
For gay equality. So yeah, it's always been.
So anybody who complains about it, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're on about. Like, you aren't paying attention. Or, it's the same. You know what it is? It's the same fuckers who in high school were like, "Oh man, Pink Floyd's The Wall. You gotta be high as a kite to get that shit, man." And I'm like, do you? Or do you just have to be able to read between the lines and understand what fucking metaphor is?
Absolutely.
Because I feel like it's like a lot like reading English literature, and sometimes things don't mean what they mean.
Right, like any Shakespeare.
Right.
Shakespeare was a fucking master of the art, and yeah, for sure, we did a whole show on that in the past. You can go back and look at it. But all right, so let's actually go with this. So we both had some top 5.
Yeah, we did.
Let's start with books.
Okay.
Because I'm afraid if we go on to the rest of the list, we won't get anywhere.
Yeah. My top 5 books. I'm going to say Octavia Butler, Parable of the Sower.
Great fucking book. It would be near the top of my list.
And I put that there because she informed the way I think about my place in the universe and kind of how I feel about religion. I tell people offhandedly that I'm an atheist, but not really, because I believe there's something bigger than us.
Sure.
I don't believe it's magic sky daddy. But the way Octavia Butler phrased it is that essentially that God has changed. It's the universe doing what the universe does, kind of, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I believe. I believe that's a power greater than us. You can call it physics, or you can call it the force, or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Sure.
I don't give a shit what you call it, because that's semantics. But yes, there's something bigger than us. No, it doesn't care about us. It's not personified. It doesn't give a fuck. It's trying to do, it's got bigger fish to fry than you. Let's put it that way. But one of the things I love, in her book, there's a religion called Earthseed, and she's got like some little tenets laid out.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, the only constant in the universe is change. And that's the one that, like, oh shit, that's poignant to me, right? Like, that means something to me. So I will say she informed my feelings about the universe.
I agree. And that book it's stunningly beautifully written.
Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't read it until Trump was at least a candidate, if not elected. Okay. So it fucked me up on a number of ways, because it foretells all of that shit. So in the genre of science fiction, along with, your spiritual, it is also speculative, because it really does.
Dystopian.
And dystopian.
Yes.
But it is, it's...
But also kind of hopeful.
Yeah, it's
both.
Yeah, it's all three.
It tries to deal with all of it.
It's all four, to be honest, all of them. But I agree, it's an amazing book. It's at the top of my list of all-time favorites.
So, secondly, I would say Kurt Vonnegut, Cat's Cradle.
I didn't have that on my list, but
I just thought of it. You were talking about something else. I actually changed this.
Did you?
I had Clockwork Orange in that slot.
Clockwork Orange is also one of my favorites.
and then I was like, wait, I fucking forgot about Kurt Vonnegut. Because I read everything by Kurt Vonnegut, but
Kurt Vonnegut
could be argued like he's kind of a comedy writer, sort of, but not.
Yeah,
but also sci-fi. Yeah. Like, I don't know how to explain him. Like, just like Cat's Cradle, that's his like that's his pinnacle of good fucking writing.
Yeah, no, it is a life-changing book. There's another one of his that hold on, I'm looking, because literally all I remember is one line from the book. Go take a flying fuck in a donut hole. What book was that for? What book was that was from? Wait, what was it from? Because one of my favorite quotes is "Go take a flying fuck in a donut hole," and that's a Kurt Vonnegut quote. Yeah, no, he's also a life-changing author.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I said, when I was in like my senior year of high school, I read everything the guy wrote up to that point. And since then, I've gone back. He's one of the few authors I've actually gone back and reread a book by. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big fan of that, because I feel like I don't have so much time in the world. Although that being said, I don't read enough anyway. I've got like ADD when it comes to reading anymore, and we'll get to that. Maybe we'll do a book.
Actually, that's a fair point. We should do a book episode, because I have a similar. I call it reader's block.
Yeah,
I just can't. Yeah. Like, I'm having trouble.
I wish I could read more than I do, But I was at a beach house for the summer, and I reread God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater.
That's the Go Take a Flying Fuck in a Donut Hole.
Oh yeah.
Yes. But maybe the cure for both of us is to read books we know and love. Like, maybe that's what we need to do.
But I got so many I need to read that I haven't read, which makes me feel like shitty.
Yeah, okay. Go back. No, you don't need to feel shitty. But I agree. That's a great book.
So third, I'm going to say Aldous Huxley, Brave New World.
Yeah, classic.
And where the drug Soma, which my mother tried to hand me, came from. Arthur C. Clarke, Rendezvous with Rama.
Okay.
It's about a Dyson sphere,
right?
Kind of. It's not really a sphere. It's more like a can, but it's the same operation theory. It's like a planet inside of a vessel, sort of thing. And it was really good. I read this, actually. I'd already read his novelization of 2001, which I read because I saw the movie, and I was left with questions.
Sure.
I thought I understood the movie, but I wanted clarification. So I read his novelization, and I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, it meant exactly what I thought it meant."
All right.
Very well.
That's
okay. But then I was like, "Oh, this guy's a pretty good author." And then I read Rendezvous with Rama, and I was like, "That's a really good story."
Sure.
Anyway, sorry. Going on. My favorite Isaac Asimov story, number one, The Gods Themselves.
Yeah, Isaac Asimov I had on the list as like a master of science fiction, and he really was, because you get. The Foundation series, you have the iRobot series, at the very least, those are classics.
Sure.
But then you've got, a few
So The Gods Themselves, this was actually written on a challenge, which was to write a book about sex that wasn't about sex.
Yeah.
And he wrote a book about this group of beings that were sort of a trinomial to like three beings would come together and create a whole, and that was the sexual, not sexual part,
right?
But then also, so they were like somehow in like a parallel universe, and our scientists were doing something that was going to cause the end of our universe, and their anyway, we had like one scientist who was in the know and one scientist on their side that was in the know. They were like trying to talk to each other, like to say, "Hey, don't do this thing because it's going to cause the end of the universe,
right?
As we know it, I don't, and which gives us back to the title, which is the gods themselves, which is a quote that says, "The gods themselves against stupidity." What is it? The gods themselves against stupidity.
I don't know the
something in vain. I can't remember. But basically, they fight against stupidity in vain because people are going to do what they're fucking going to do. It's a great quote. That's at the very beginning of the novel, and it's a quote from somebody from Greece or some shit like that's been around forever, which just tells you people have always been fucking stupid. Okay, you go ahead. What are your top five?
That was okay. You went through five already? All right.
Yeah, I got to five.
All right. My first one, the first one that came to mind when we started talking about this, and I'm sure, like you said, Parable the Sower, it's one of my favorite books. So, but it wasn't on my list. The first one that I put down is one of the books that stuck with me the most is Canticle for Leibowitz. It's Walter M. Miller Jr. is the author, and it is. Like, I don't even know that I could explain it to you. It ties religion to sci-fi, and it's really, really fucking cool.
Well, again, I should probably check that out because
you should check
I really
that
love,
out.
like I said, for all my hatred of religion in this realm, when it comes to sci-fi, like most of the sci-fis I really relate to are the ones that are kind of spiritual because I guess that's still sort. You're looking for meaning, I suppose.
Sure, absolutely right. That's but I think
that's
sci-fi,
a human condition, right?
Yeah, I think sci-fi can fill that role. Like, so A Canticle for Leibowitz is worth reading. It's very, very good. Similarly, the next one on my list was Hyperion by Dan Simmons, and the first book is basically a science fiction retelling of the Canterbury Tales. And it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
And there are like 4 or 3 sequels to it. But that first book, Hyperion, is just amazing. So I highly recommend that for anybody who wants. And for what you say you like, both of those books I think would fit your bill. So maybe that's secure to our reader's block. Like I should read something that you said.
Yeah, you just be like, hey, check this out.
So the next book I put out, it's actually a short story.
Okay.
And this was one of the other like godfathers of sci-fi or fathers of sci-fi, grandfathers of sci-fi. I don't know.
One of the big 10
It's
anyway.
one of the big guys. Is Heinlein. And Heinlein, a lot of his books are problematic as fuck. Like problematic as fuck.
I've only ever gotten through one, and it was probably the worst thing he ever wrote.
Which one?
It was called I Shall Fear No Evil. And it was basically if I was a woman, this is the kind of woman I'd be.
Oh yeah, yeah. He's problematic as fuck.
Yeah, it was awful. And I'll tell you, the only reason I finished it was because I had previously started to read 2 other Heinlein books, and I'd get a certain point to them, and I'd get bored with them and put them down.
Right.
And I was like, I should fucking finish one already.
Well, and
that was the wrong one probably to finish.
That's totally fair. Stranger in a Strange Land and The Moon is a Harsh Mistress are both very.
I put down Stranger in a Strange Land and Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers. I mean,
I put both. I started both of those and then couldn't get through them.
That's fair. Starship Troopers, but Stranger in a Strange Land, of course, that also spawned a religion like not quite the reach.
Right. He was trying to compete, him and L. Ron Hubbard.
And L. Ron Hubbard, yeah, they were. That was part of the bet. So we talked about the bet from.
Sci-fi people like to bet.
Yeah, they like to bet things. One was L. Ron Hubbard and Heinlein and a few other people said, we bet we can start a religion. And L. Ron Hubbard clearly won because he is very dead. And
his religion exists.
Fucking Scientologists. So Heinlein wrote, he tried to start a religion out of Stranger in a Strange Land. The religion is Church of All Worlds, and it did exist for a while, and I think there are still people that.
Okay.
But it was more of a Wiccan pagan religion. It became, so it was a little less formalized. All right.
Yeah, if you don't make it formal, it's hard to keep people.
Yeah,
It's like if you don't show up on the Unitarian Church on Sunday,
exactly,
nobody's gonna ride your ass about it.
The funny part is there's one right behind our house, and we do okay. But anyway, Heinlein. That is not. None of those are the books I wanted to mention. The story I wanted to mention. It's a short story. It appears in some collection or whatever.
Yeah.
But it has stuck with me ever since the day I read it. And it's called "And He Built a Crooked House," and it is one of the most amazing pieces of literature I've ever read.
Okay.
And it's about a house that exists within a tesseract. And like, it's just fucking amazing. Like, it has always stuck with me. I think it is one of the best pieces of literature ever. And it's a short story, so you can just read it real quick. The other two are speculative fiction, more like Octavia Butler. The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, I think it's a classic, but it's also terrifying because we are literally living through it at the moment.
Sure.
And then, of course, they started the TV series a few years ago, which is even more close to home now. So it's kind of terrifying.
And is she actually an advisor on the show? Yeah,
she is.
So it's not like they just took her story and went crazy with it.
No, yeah. Okay. The first.
When you said speculative fiction, I want to say before we came to the show, I thought you meant like shit like the like Man in the High Tower, like what if the Germans had won the war?
I suppose that counts,
but it's less speculative than this is the extreme that this thing might go to. It's more like, because there is that whole thing what they call I guess revisionist history or something,
right? Which is that probably is more Man in the High Tower.
If the alternate timeline had gone off and done this thing,
whereas Handmaid's Tale was. Shit's going to get real with reproductive rights. Mm-hmm. Let's draw it out to its conclusion. So
this is how silly it's going to get before we.
And as she said, she has never written about something that hasn't already happened somewhere in the world. Yeah. So we're watching it happen in real time right now with Roe v. Wade under threat. Yeah. But she wrote about this in the 80s. Yeah. So we should have fucking seen it coming.
And she's a Canadian where she's like. Really isn't like she's not worried about herself as much as like her neighbors to the south. You know?
Exactly. Which plays a part in the story because Canada is the place where everybody
runs to because it's like that's where they ran to back during slavery times too. You know, because Canada's our friendlier, more progressive neighbor.
But there's one last speculative / science fiction story that I think is crucial for people to read. There was a movie version. The movie version is meh. But is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. He is a American author of Japanese descent, and it is a story about cloning. Like we're making clones to be replacement parts for rich people. And it is, but the story isn't about the science. There is science in the story, but it's about the fucking people. And it's about the clones having like real memories and real experiences and doing real things. And then they find out they're going to die because someone needs their.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like Blade Runner aspect because like at some point you hit the reality of that I'm only created to serve.
Yes.
I'm not even a real thing. I'm just somebody's like,
But it was one of the most affecting books I ever read, and it is incredible.
Yeah. And I will say we haven't even got to TV or anything yet, really. But I've been loving. There's been a lot of TV about automatons in the last few years. There was one called Human that was kind of about that sort of like about androids that sort of dealing with their humanity, if you will,
for sure.
Which I love that kind of stuff.
And one that I think is totally worth mentioning, Apple TV has a show called Severance. Okay. If you have not watched it, watch it right now. Binge it. Okay. It's about that. It starts out as a takedown. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but starts out as like a takedown of corporate America, but then you quickly realize it's actually a discussion of what is life, and it's fucking awesome. Yeah, on Apple TV right now. Severance. Watch it today, tomorrow, next day.
I'll check it out. I wanted to give a brief honorable mention since I didn't mention it, but 1984, like Brave New World, I kind of put those two hand in hand. They're almost they're different sides of the same kind of story. And then there was another one actually written by a Russian person named Yevgeny Zemtyaten. I'm probably butchering that all to hell.
Sure.
But it's called We.
Okay.
And it was also written about the same time period. It was actually written in 1920. So it actually predates both 1984 and Brave New World was before 1984. I want to say that was written in the 30s.
Yeah, but it was not really. Yeah, it wasn't the 20s for sure.
Anyway, so it's kind of the same sort of thing. It's a sort of like an idea.
What's it called?
We.
I need to read that.
Yeah,
that sounds awesome.
And it's like about this idyllic sort of. You know what? The closest thing to it that you've probably read is if you've read The Giver by Lois Lowry.
Okay.
Have you read that? You didn't read that? That's a young adult novel that they make you read nowadays. I don't think I read it in high school. I actually read it in college.
It was first published in 52.
Okay, well here, yeah, probably anywhere.
Oh, right. It was written in 20 to 21, and he wrote it in the 20s, but it was not published by anyone in the 50s until the 50s.
Yeah.
So he might have been more prophetic than he thought.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, but it's kind of lumped in with 1984 and Brave New World.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Handmaid's Tale also kind of go into that.
Absolutely.
They used to, sometimes in school they make you read all those together.
Yeah.
But they never put We in there because they didn't know about that one.
Yeah, you should definitely. I mean, I actually going to check that out. But yeah, with Handmaid's Tale in 1984 and Brave New World, I would totally add A Parable of the Sower and Never Let Me Go to those because I think they're at the same level of those stories, and they're important.
So I'm sorry, I want to jump ahead now because we've got very little time.
Very little time and a lot.
And I was going to talk about my top 5 movies of sci-fi, which are going to be completely different kind of. Well, I don't know, not completely different because some of Contact.
All right.
Which was written by Carl Sagan.
Yep.
Starred Matthew McConaughey and Jodie Foster. And that's one of those kind of spiritual things because it's about
life in the universe, but
but then also your place in the universe, sort of,
absolutely.
right? Like, and what do you mean, and what do we mean, and what are we here for? Actually, the movie, I will say, this is one of those rare cases where the movie is better than the book. Because Carl Sagan's a little wordy and he's dry. He's not really a novelist. He was a scientist who wrote a novel.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it wasn't like telling a story wasn't really his forte. And so the people who screen wrote his movie actually like sort of filled in the blanks.
I agree. I think that's
so that's one of these rare cases where the novel is less than
the movie. Yeah.
So watch the movie. Secondly, They Live, which was a John Carpenter movie. And it's sort of a takedown of consumerism and authoritarianism and capitalism. It's just an interesting story. It's got Roddy Piper as the main character, and that's probably the biggest weakness that he's not a very strong actor, and it's because Kurt Russell at the time was on another project.
Right.
John Carpenter tends to put Kurt Russell in his movies.
Yeah.
He couldn't get him for this particular one, so he cast a Kurt Russell type.
Although I do think it's funny that at the time, like today, a lot of, because this is a sidetrack, but World Wrestling Federation or Entertainment or whatever.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people today have gone on to have a very lucrative movie roles.
Yeah, Cena and Rock in
particular.
Yeah, those two are the.
But yeah, that Roddy Piper couldn't quite take it to that level.
That was the only thing, as far as I'm aware, that he was really ever in.
Well, there might have been a reason.
Well, because it didn't do well. But it's one of those ones that's done well in retrospect.
Right.
Because I think people have gone back since then and been like, damn, that was the story. If nothing else, the story is a really good story, so it's worth investigating. I would say the first Alien movie told a very riveting, interesting tale that like you had not seen anything like that before. And it's got a little bit of stuff about corporations meddling and
absolutely.
Blah, blah,
but it's also a woman with a cat knows the problem and nobody's going to listen to her.
Yeah. So
that's what that is.
And then she also just like wrecks that shit, she's, anyway, then I would say The Thing, which is another John Carpenter movie.
I know that's a favorite of yours.
It's a big favorite of mine. I love it because it's got kind of an ambiguous ending, which I love an ambiguous ending in a movie. I like something to chew on.
I do too.
It always makes you love a movie more when you have to spend like 3 weeks thinking about it.
Right, when you feel compelled to write fan fiction. if you don't write fan fiction, but you feel compelled to do it.
Right.
Like, I need to know what happens next, and I can think of it.
Yeah. So that I think that's one of the things that's compelling about the thing. But it's a good story about paranoia and just, you know,
Sure.
I don't know. But and I'm specifically in movies talking about this movie's been remade. Like they made a version in the 50s, but the John Carpenter one,
Right.
I wouldn't call it a remake because he actually went back to the source material. He was actually just developing the source story
Right.
that he read. I think he'd actually seen the movie in the 50s, but he was like, this is terrible because he'd read the book already.
Because it's terrible.
He was like, huh, this doesn't touch on some of the themes that were in the book. And so he wanted to make what he read. And that's why it's good.
Sure.
Then my number one ultimate 2001 A Space Odyssey by Arthur C. Clarke. Now he wrote the screenplay before he wrote the novelization.
Yes.
But he did write the screenplay. And it's just a fucking excellent, and it's no coincidence that the theme song for it was Richard Strauss's Thus Spake Zarathustra, because if you read the Nietzsche book Thus Spake Zarathustra, it's touching on sort of the bridge between monkey and God.
Right.
And that's sort of what the movie's about too.
Right.
Is like, how do we become more than what we are?
Sure.
If you will. And so again, that's one of those kind of spiritual things. But I love it. I just fucking love it. It's I would say by today's standards, it's very plotting and slow. And like if you try to make some like Zoomer kid watch it,
oh god, yeah,
they would probably roll their eyes at you.
No,
because they'd be like, "This is 3 hours of boring horse shit, Dad."
And
you know, but
the truth is, it is.
But oh my god, it's such a fucking good movie to me.
But there's so many of those like, right? You could put we didn't mention it. We are coming to a close, but Philip K. Dick, right?
Oh
who is
yeah,
a great
he was,
author. Of course, he's the author of Blade Runner,
which is a great story too. Love
Two
that.
Androids Dream of Electric Sheep.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great story. The movie, a little plotting.
Like
it,
but I kind of love it.
I agree. I love.
And I have
the
not seen
original.
the new one. I've only seen the Harrison Ford.
We saw the new one.
What did you think of that?
Great.
No.
Like,
I didn't. Nobody really sold me on it. So I was just like, I think I'll just stick with my fond memories of.
It's a little complicated, but much like
have you
Blade
heard
Runner.
of Edward James Olmos? When he speaks at DragonCon, he actually kind of tries to tie.
He does.
Battlestar Galactica to Blade Runner.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. No, he's not.
About synthetic life forms.
Sure, yeah.
Right. So he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. No, it's interesting. He says as soon as Battlestar Galactica ends, you should pop in Blade Runner and watch that.
I think that's fair. I think it's a fair assessment. That's a fair assessment. All right, so we didn't get to like half the shit. Like often.
Oh, I know. I told her, she said, "Is there things that are extra today?" And I was like, "We won't have time for that shit."
But there are, I mean, you mentioned some authors that I should read, and I mentioned some that you should read, and so we should do that.
Oh, and briefly, we're going to touch on the fact that Star Wars, we decided, was kind of space fantasy, more
space
than
opera, space fantasy,
more so than sci-fi. Although I think you can make the point that the prequels were closer to sci-fi than the originals.
Well,
were.
I think because we have more of an understanding. You know, when it was made, it was new.
Yeah,
not a lot of that shit existed. Like one of my, honestly, this is total sidetrack, but go watch Jodorowsky's Dune. So
Yoda who?
Jodorowsky. So if you watch, so before David Lynch made his Dune, a Mexican filmmaker named Jodorowsky was going to make it.
Okay.
And he busted his budget. He cast people like Salvador Dali.
Oh gosh.
So he came this close to making it, this close, and it would have been insane.
I got you. This is up there with like Tim Burton's Superman.
Yeah.
Of like things that didn't happen that if you want to.
Yeah. So somebody made a documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune, and he talks about it. Some of the people that were in it, were supposed to be in it, talked about it. And it would have come out in 1975. So it would have come out before Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
Which would have changed how we perceive sci-fi / space fantasy movies. Like it would have made all the difference. Giger, did all the artwork for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Who
no,
also did the artwork for Alien
exactly. Yes.
and Species.
So
I want to say probably some other things.
Yeah,
too, but-
tons of things. So I highly, 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 highly recommend Jodorowsky's Dune.
Mhm.
And he's such a he's total narcissist, right? He makes movies that he loves, and he's like, this would have been the best movie ever. And like one of the things, like people asked him, so would this have been, what about Frank Herbert's Dune? He's like, I wasn't trying to make Frank Herbert's Dune. I was trying to make Jodorowsky's Dune.
Okay, so
which I think is brilliant, right?
Yeah.
So you take art and you make more art.
well, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise, like if you want Frank Herbert's Dune, fucking go read the books.
Just read the fucking books.
Which,
Yeah.
by the way, I got to pre-apologize. There's a couple things we were talking about sci-fi tonight. I've never read Foundation and I've never read Dune, and it's because I don't fucking like trilogies.
Yeah. Well,
only
trilogies, they're like
Okay.
10 books.
The only sci-fi series I've ever read that was more than 2 books was Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and it's because they're short and they're fucking funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there are 5 in the trilogy.
There's 5, but they're like, honest to God, they're like reading.
Also, there's 5 in the trilogy.
There's 5 in the trilogy, but it's like
Trilogy. 5.
and they're this thick and they're
That's the
large
joke.
print, and it's like reading Ethan from.
No, they're
You know,
hilarious.
like
Yes.
it
Actually, I would have added that to the list because that's one of my favorite books, and even the movie version. Although there are several movie versions of it.
and there was a BBC radio series.
the
and
BBC
then-
radio. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. We are way beyond. We need to go ahead.
Like,
Bill
this
has
could have been a
pizza.
2-parter.
Yeah, we'll do some more sci-fi.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big topic.
We'll come back
right?
around to it at some point.
All right.
The wrath of sci-fi.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Sci-fi 2, The Wrath of Sci-Fi.
Right.
All right, will you take us away
We'll just
then?
freeze this one in carbonite and come back to it. All right. Yeah. Bill Has Opinions is engineered and produced by Laura Lavoie. The opinions of Bill are his and his alone, except for the ones Laura agreed with, in which case we both agreed. And blah, blah, blah. Same thing. I don't know. Back and forth.
Some
Yak.
Yeah,
Anyway, they're definitely not the opinions of Michael Keane, who probably has a completely different take on a lot of sci-fi movies.
I mean, although he would be an interesting guest.
he would be a
somewhere in
great
the
guest for
future.
especially something like this where we're talking about genres.
Sure.
We should get him on here at some point. Anyway, aside from all that, be sure to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, and be sure to send us some emails or ask us questions. And
Tell us some shit. Tell us
Yeah,
how much you hate us.
exactly, all those things, and we'll get back to you at some point in the future, which is like sci-fi in the future.
Exactly.
And then,
I get you.
and then also in the future, tune in next week for another exciting episode at the same time, and it'll be about
I have no fucking
something.
idea.
It'll be speculative, something completely different. It'll probably, it could it be good or could it be bad, dystopian or utopian? We don't know. Probably be all right.
We don't know.
It'll be the most okay thing you
It'll
ever
be-
saw.
The most okayest episode
Yeah, it will be. And we'll drink some more beers and talk some more stuff.
that we do. All right,
All right.
everybody. We'll see you soon.
And may the force be with you.